Hello and good evening to Crime Tak. This is an English version of what you have been hearing till now. Till now, there have been stories on various aspects of crime, police from across the country and the world, brought to you by the famous Shams Tahir Khan. Now I am trying to replicate this in English, having covered crime very closely for very long over my journalistic career, even though now I cover various other things including conflict, defense and security affairs. Crime and police is something that has been part of my journalistic journey, and today we'll bring to you a very interesting story on a sting operation. Back in the day when I started off as a journalist, it was the mid-2000s. Obviously, sting operations were really sought after. People wanted to do sting operations, become star journalists. There already had been a few very famous sting operations done. But this story that we are going to tell you is not about a famous, but rather an infamous sting operation. How not to do a sting operation, this story pertains to that. I was a young crime reporter in a newspaper back then, and one fine day, we heard of a sting operation that has been done by a news network. The sting operation showed a young girl from a government school in Delhi on camera alleging that she has been pushed into prostitution by her own teacher. While the revelations were really alarming, but what followed that day was perhaps one of the scariest things that you will see on the streets of Delhi. That particular school teacher, goes by the name of Khurana, was dragged out of her school in Old Delhi's Daryaganj in the walled city. There was a mob that pulled her out, pulled her hair and literally ripped her clothes apart. She would have been lynched that day had it not been for the timely intervention of the police. But having said that, there were questions raised on the police itself. How in the middle of a busy Old Delhi street something like this was possible? And as a young reporter, I got calls from my editors asking me what this sting operation is all about and what has happened in Old Delhi. I got back to office. There was a lot of discussion, but there was something amiss in what we saw in that footage. And I suggested to my editors that, of course, the findings of this alleged prostitution racket being run from a government school is obviously a matter of big concern. But the fact that a woman, a teacher, was stripped in public, not very far away from the DCP's office in Old Delhi in Daryaganj, and she was almost killed. So I suggested that, why not focus on this aspect of the story as well. And after the editorial meeting in the evening, it was decided that yes, while we will go ahead with what the sting operation shows, but this is a bigger story, or how a woman was treated not too far away from a police station and from the DCP's office. And after going through the footage that was being shown on TV, we also decided to carry a small box item, a small piece on some of the unanswered questions in this sting operation and what it did not show. Raising a few questions, we were not sure. We could not stick our necks out and say that the sting operation is fake. But through police sources, through what we thought was missing in the sting operation, we put together a small box item suggesting that there are vital things, vital information that perhaps do not join the dots. That was just the beginning of a very long and interesting case that I followed for months to come. And I remember that particular day. It was the August of 2007. a typical sultry afternoon in Delhi in the monsoon. It was humid, and going to the spot and trying to understand, pick up what exactly has happened was a bit of a confusing task, because on the one hand you had to focus on what that sting operation was showing, and on the other, of course, perhaps the most heinous crime that can take place, a woman being treated like this. But once the investigation started, as I said, it was very early days in my journalistic career, but doggedly I followed each and every development, going to the courts once she was arrested. Remember this school teacher Khurana, who was teaching in a girls' school. She was a maths teacher. She was taken in custody, and then the investigation started. Now, during the course of the investigation, I kept reporting that how police sources had been indicating to me that perhaps there were a lot of chinks in the armor as far as this particular sting operation was concerned. Lots of people were questioned in days to come, including the reporter who had carried out the sting operation. And finally, the police traced that alleged victim, the girl in that sting operation, who was alleging that, I am a student of this school. I have been pushed into prostitution by my own teacher. When she was examined, there was a big breakthrough. She apparently broke down, and she told the police that she is neither a prostitute nor a school student. This was a big scoop that I got, and we reported this, and the next day, obviously, there was a completely new twist to this sting operation that was carried out by this particular news network. It was a new news channel that had come up at that time, and from here onwards it kept on getting clear that perhaps this sting operation has gone wrong. And when this girl said that she wasn't a school student, and the question arose, well, who is she? She told the interrogators that she was a budding journalist. She had interned with a Hindi daily. She had not got a job for a long time. She was going from office to office. She was jobless. Well, here was her big opportunity to be in collaboration with a reporter who said that you be part of the sting operation, and from here onwards your career will be made. Simple trap that she fell into. Little did she realize that, forget about being a journalist, she's walking into a criminal trap. And that's exactly what happened a few months down the line. When the police completed its investigation and a charge sheet had to be filed, the police actually pressed charges against the reporter. The reporter was taken in custody. He was charged with cheating and fabricating evidence. This was perhaps the first of its kind. A sting operation is carried out, it hits headlines, and few months down the line, the reporter who so-called broke this big story is now actually a suspect and is accused of carrying out a completely fake story. Obviously, not just the reporter, but even the news network that carried out this sting operation was in the dock, and the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting came in. The news channel was put off air for some days, and there were also new rules of the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting that came speaking about how sting operations should be done. So this obviously was a big breakthrough as far as TV news is concerned. Till now we had only seen sting operations that had exposed corruption, that had exposed wrongdoing. This was a completely new thing, shocking as it was for the police, for the viewers, and for journalists as well, because something like this was obviously not known. Now the other thing was, the police was still playing it safe. They did not charge Khurana, the teacher in this case, but they also did not give her a complete clean chit, as one would say, because they wanted to be sure that if at any point of time there is evidence that suggests that she was in the wrong, then she could have been prosecuted. But nothing really was found out, and in fact it was a moment of great pride personally for me. It was a big moment when the Delhi High Court took cognizance of the reports that I had done along with another colleague of mine, and taking cognizance of those reports, the school teacher was granted bail. And obviously at my office then in the Hindustan Times, it was a big day. I mean, it was something that was felt that young crime reporters thought ahead of others. They had a nose for news. I still remember getting a congratulatory note from my editor saying that this was a job well done, and this is how news stories should be done, and we should go beyond what we see and try to investigate what has happened and look at other angles to a story. But having said this, of course it was a great teaching for all young reporters, including me, how not to do a sting operation. And this was the beginning of my career. I had just spent 2 or 3 years. This was back in 2007, as I said. Since then, I've covered a lot of crime stories, but this one remains very close to my heart, and I strongly feel for this story. That's why this is the first story that I'm bringing to the viewers at Crime Tak. And also I feel that this is a story that should be told again and again and again, and probably it should be part of curriculum in journalism and media schools. Young journalists should be taught about this story. This can be a case study, how not to do a sting operation. Friends, this was my first big story that I did, and of course it was a big breakthrough, not just as far as the world of journalism and sting operations is concerned, but it was a big moment and personally a big breakthrough for me as well. This story recognized me as a reporter. Many people got to know my byline from here onwards, and this is one story that I will not forget all my life. So we'll keep bringing to you more such stories in English. There are many more stories that I've covered that have been very, very close to me. I've been to crime spots, I've been to places where a lot of things took place that shake our sensibilities. But this is the beauty of crime stories. They are a real mirror of society. These are not made up stories. These are not part of government policy. This is what you see. These are about real people, and these are real stories. We'll keep bringing these stories to you. Hopefully you enjoyed this story on how not to do a sting operation. Thank you.